Good afternoon. This is the Board of County Commissioners. One second. This is a board work session. It is Wednesday, August 2nd, 2023. It is 2:04 p.m. This session is set to go until 3 p.m. This is a hybrid meeting. We're at 3000 Pacific Avenue Southeast, room 110. For public virtual attendance, you may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel. I'm Carolina Mejia. I'm the chair of the board, joining you via Zoom. Vice Chair Ty Menser is in the boardroom, as well as Commissioner Gary Edwards. We have County Manager Ramiro Chavez, as well as Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell and Assistant County Manager Rob Gelder. And today's topic is the American Rescue Plan, ARPA, spending update. And so passing it to Robin.
Sure. I can start us off. This afternoon, we're doing the quarterly review of the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, spending from the state and local recovery fund. And I'm just gonna turn it quickly to Diana Ahrens, who prepared this report, and let her walk you through the slides that we have for you today.
Thank you, Robin. This meeting occurs every other month. I think that makes us bi-monthly.
Yeah.
Yes. So is somebody able to share their screen with the slideshow for me?
Sure.
That would be appreciated. Thank you very much. And let me just switch screens here. Okay, next slide, please. So on today's agenda, we'll be going over the current expenditure rate information. And as a follow-up to our prior meeting, we'll be presenting some Plan B options for unobligated funds in case of a congressional clawback of ARPA funds. Reviewing the current allocation of the recovery fund, and then discussing some potential changes to our ARPA allocation, as well as saving some time for potential ARPA projects discussion. Currently, 90% of the fund, 50.5 million, has been approved for specific projects, which leaves 5.9 million in earmarks for projects under consideration. The current expenditure rate, we have expended 22.3 million of the 56.4 million award, which is 40% of the award to date. These funds must be spent or obligated by the end of December 2024, with final expenditures occurring by the end of December 2026. This is just a quick review of some information that we presented to the board and discussed at our last ARPA update. There have been a couple of congressional attempts to claw back ARPA funds and unobligated ARPA funds, I should say. And there's a, I guess, room for interpretation as to what unobligated ARPA funds mean. It could mean funds in the under consideration column in our allocation considered unobligated, as well as funds in the approved column, which are not yet under contract. The Government Finance Officers Association considers that ARPA funds which have been sent out to counties are obligated from the standpoint of the U.S. Department of the Treasury. However, if there were a bill introduced and passed which redefined the word unobligated to interpret to mean funds which cities, states, or counties have not yet obligated, then an attempt like that to claw back could be pointed at us and affect our funds. The attempts that we have discussed previously to claw back funds have not passed, have not affected our funds.
And Diana, we haven't heard of one recently. Is that
That's
true?
correct. Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean we're not going to see another one as Congress debates the upcoming federal budget.
That's right. So the risk to us would be that anytime Congress is in session and wants to find funding for any particular need or want, they could potentially, point their funding source at our unobligated funds. So the next slide presents one potential scenario that we wanted to discuss with you for quickly obligating our unobligated ARPA funds. And unobligated meaning from the prior slides that are not yet under contract or approved for any particular project, with the exception of some staffing costs that are sort of a gray area of obligation. Robin, do you want me to go ahead and cover this slide, or is this something you wanted to discuss?
Sure, go ahead, Diana, you're doing great.
Okay. So I put this together in conjunction with Nicole and Robin, and it's, like I said, just one potential option to quickly obligate funds. Obviously, want to have a conversation with you about it. So one way to quickly obligate funds is to group them into different groupings, and then to calculate the unobligated amount, and then to put those unobligated funds quickly towards another purpose. So the plan has 6 parts. The first part would be in the affordable housing area, moving the unobligated amount into a contract with the city of Olympia. The second part of the plan would be for the unobligated amounts in the public works, water and sewer projects. And the potential plan B for that could be to move unobligated balances into road projects.
Current road projects that are ready to contract.
That's right.
I have a question real quick.
Yes.
So I'm wondering where that total of 19 million is coming from. I'm seeing here that what we have is the 28,198,511.
So some of the 19 million is funds which are in our approved column, but which are not under contract. So for example, going back to number 1, the example of affordable housing, we have 5 million approved for affordable housing projects. And part of that is not yet under contract.
So we excluded from this list, Commissioner, anything that we currently have a contract for. At the time we did the analysis about a month or so ago, there was 19.7 million that was not under contract. So this
Okay.
is an example of what we could quickly do.
Yeah, and this is not necessarily a proposal from staff at this point. This is a plan B in case the Congress tried to claw back. They give us a time in which we need to obligate this. This is a strategy that will be implemented with the blessing of the board, obviously, in the event that the Congress will put us in that position.
Right,
Yeah.
so like one of the proposals we saw would have given us 90 days, not 90 days, 60 days to get things obligated. And if we had 30 or 60 days, that would be about enough time to execute contracts that are for these types of items.
Yeah, no, perfect. And I understand the plan B. I just wanted to I'm seeing that we have 28 million, and I was just like, I'm only seeing 19 million here. So I just wanted to make sure that.
So that means about 9 of that is under contract.
Except for one item, is the emergency services vehicle.
Well, we'll get to that one.
So except for that item, you will get a little more detail later on, because that's a request that we have from staff to the board today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Diana. I think you were at number 3.
Sure. And I also want to add that this is a starting place. And so, if any of these, elements of this plan, you want to direct the funds elsewhere, that obviously that's your prerogative, and we would do that for you. So part 3 of the plan would be broadband. So moving unobligated balances under contract with Nisqually. Part 4, lost revenue replacement. The plan for the unobligated balances would be to pay rent for the atrium, fund the sheriff's office, and fund the rest of the employee bonuses. Robin, did you want to speak to that?
Sure. This is assuming that we had a very short time to put this money into the general fund. So I would be looking for large, um, large ticket items so we could move a lot of money all at once. It would just add to the general fund balance by covering these things. There's the only rhyme or reason for choosing these things is I know that they're large costs. So the rent for the atrium in the current year is a significant amount of money. The costs in the sheriff's office is a large ticket item. We can't do it only in the sheriff's office. There's not enough funding in the sheriff's office that's not already covered by other sources. But we do a chunk there, and then the employee bonuses, the plan already includes the bonuses for general fund. If there's anything left that we can't find to cover in the general fund, then we would just cover all of the employee bonuses to the extent that we need to use the money. It's really, and it's also driven at a point in time, because at some point this year, I'll do another transfer of 1.5 million into the general fund, and there wouldn't be 5 million in lost revenue replacement left. So if we get to the point where we have to put Plan B in action, then we'll be reviewing these numbers and seeing how much we really need to obligate in that moment.
Madam Chair.
Sorry, on mute. Go ahead, sir.
What about the fair, the building for the fair? Why couldn't that be put in this maybe column? And I don't know where Josh is at on that, but we've got the building tore down. We've got a temporary building for cover, I think, up.
It's not the type of infrastructure that would be allowable for the federal money, but we could certainly use the lost revenue for it.
I think it would be more than allowable on some of these other ones, because we did address so much of our vaccination program and everything at the fairgrounds. And so I think we're missing the boat if we just arbitrarily say no, that's not eligible spending. This other stuff we didn't use at all towards solving that pandemic, the reason we got the money. But for the fairgrounds, we actually did. We've got a history of doing it, and we can claim we're doing more.
Right. However, these other items are specifically called out in US Treasury final rule as things that are eligible for ARPA. We know that they're eligible.
Well, let's not be so cautious that we miss out on the possibility. The government's not going after anybody. All the abuses that have been taking place, all the theft that's been taking place out of this fund, they're not doing anything about it. So let's not shoot ourselves in the foot and cut ourselves out of a potential revenue source to solve a problem. This is just if they come for the money, which I'm not too concerned about that they're coming myself, because we're gonna have time. We got the Senate.
Yeah, keep in mind that we can certainly explore that option, Commissioner. But as Robin has stated, in the last attempts, they're gonna give us 60 days to have a contract. In 60 days, this building does not have a design, does not have anything. It's a lot of work that needs to be
Well,
done.
let's do that work now then.
What money?
I don't know, design, take it out of some of the 5 million or something. Let's at least plan to expend it, and not always out of the 10 million that we've already, we got 5 million left. Let's not limit ourselves. I'm just saying, let's look at all options.
Yeah.
I think there's a possibility that would be a valid expenditure.
Yeah, that will be a good conversation.
Especially if some of the reading that I get out of the national county news of what other entities are doing with this money. Very similar type stuff is going on. And I would encourage everybody to stay on top of those articles that are coming out on the national.
Excellent conversation to have with your seatmates.
Okay. Well,
Shall I proceed?
when you say seatmates,
The two, I mean, all of you
Yeah,
need to
they're
agree.
here, but I want staff to hear that, so staff is actually digging and looking for solutions to this problem to bring back to myself and my seatmates. So that's where I'm at. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I mean, yeah, if there's a possibility, I know the building has been an issue, so if there's a way to connect it to ARPA, I'm open to that.
You can certainly look into that.
Shall I proceed?
Please.
Okay. I want to mention a couple of things. First of all, these figures were updated at the time that I submitted this slideshow, which was the 27th of July. So these aren't 2-month-old figures. And to Commissioner Edwards' point, we're aware of the fairgrounds as a priority to the community. And I believe that I looked into the ARPA eligibility with our internal auditor on a couple of occasions. It appeared to be eligible under lost revenue. We'll certainly take a third look at it because I know that it's a priority and it would be a benefit to the community.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, and the other last thing about the lost revenue grouping here is these represent things I believe which are already general fund planned general fund expenditures in the budget. Is that correct, Robin?
Yes.
Okay. So moving on to number 5. So we grouped together staffing costs, which had been projected through the end of 2024. And the plan for those would be to potentially document those projected costs as ARPA relating staffing costs, and doing so with employment letters and position descriptions. And then that brings us to an emergency services item for Medic One vehicles. Robin, did you want to speak to that?
We're going to skip that one for a moment and come back.
Yes. Okay. So if you add all of these up and then subtract it from the total unobligated funds, that leaves over 700,000 in remainder of obligated funds, unobligated funds. And on the next slide is presented some various options for the remainder of these unobligated funds. So there would not be funding available to fund each of these items, but this is just a starting list to I guess, for the commissioners to consider. These items would need to be ARPA eligible items.
This is for the 707.
Yeah,
That's
there's,
correct.
and a lot of this came from the survey that we did, the community survey, where the community said if you had so much ARPA to spend it on this. Some of it would just be growing the like the grants to the nonprofits. We'd increase some of those. We know all of these would be eligible under ARPA rules. And we think that we could quickly get it under contract, but you'll see there's no dollar amounts there. This would be open to a conversation with the board.
Is there something we could put on there, like if I'm looking at some of these nonprofits, arts and culture and education, there was a request that was made about Capital Land Trust Education Center at Johnson Point.
We could certainly look at that.
That's on our budget list because I put it for consideration, but if it could plug in here, that might be a better plug-in for that.
One eligibility piece around nonprofits is that the nonprofit doesn't have to show specific financial COVID harm if they're located in a qualified census tract, and those are specific locations in Thurston County. So we can look into seeing whether they are located in one of those.
Okay, yeah, this is like above Squaxin Park. I'm not, yeah, on Henderson Inlet. But I don't know about the census
We'd
tract.
have to look. We'll certainly look. So, but again, this is this is just a brainstorm list, and if there are other items the board would like us to explore, we can certainly look into them. And should the time come that we have to enact Plan B, we'd have a conversation with you about where you really want to target the money. All right, so.
I have just a quick, another idea.
Sure.
I saw in, while I was at NACO that they used it for, a lot of counties used ARPA for their nurse and family partnership programs.
So we could look into that too. You need to remember that this money is one-time funding. So you wouldn't want to grow the nurse family partnership program with ongoing costs with one-time money. So, but we could certainly look into what types of things in the NFP might be eligible for ARPA, and we'd love to look and see what other jurisdictions have done.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's, is this the time to talk about the Medic One vehicles? Great. So we have a proposal, and maybe you'd like to outline it, Ramiro.
Yeah, and I think the board is well aware when the Medic One proposition was approved by the voters. At that point, we as a staff, we made assumptions as to the level of revenue that particular measure will bring in. That was part of a financial plan. Unfortunately, that is not materializing. And I don't want to revisit as to why that is. It's just, that's the current reality. There is a little bit of a gap on Medic One. And the gap is really related to the one-time expenditures in purchasing vehicles, emergency vehicles, ambulances, as part of the replacement program the Medic One had as a result of this new, the additional funding the board has approved. We had a conversation. We started looking at it with Ben, that's what Ben is here, Rob. They started looking at the financial plan of Medic One. And really, if we don't inject at one time, the Medic One fund will start seeing declining in the future, which that doesn't mean the intent of the board's mandate. So by having this proposal for the board to consider purchasing ambulances with ARPA funds, which is clearly an eligible item for $1.6 million, that $1.6 million one-time injection to the fund will make the fund sustainable into the future. That is really the intent of this. This is related, this is a strategy to address the gap that we have in Medic One and down the road, and really start purchasing those vehicles, emergency vehicles right away. That is the background related to this $1.6 million.
Is there still quite a delay from the time you put your order in to when you get a product?
Yes.
That's
18 months or so.
quite a while.
But we can, because those orders are already put in place, and instead of using Medic One money, we use ARPA money with those current contracts.
And
That's the intent.
does that suffice as obligated if you've got an order?
Yes,
If
because
we
it's
put
already
the
a
order
contract.
in,
Okay,
yes.
It's already a contract.
okay, good, no, thank you.
So we just changed the color of the money.
And, so what that also does is that by infusing that one-time dollars, it allows the fund to actually be able to stand up at the 8th medic unit come 2025, which was really key, I think, in terms of our commitment to the community and overall strategy.
And is this two new vehicles or two replacement vehicles?
This would actually be 4 new vehicles.
Oh, 4 new vehicles, okay. And then, are some of the fire entities gonna pick up any surplus? Cause that's what we've done in the past.
It will follow its normal kind of progression. They'll come in as Medic One vehicles, for the ALS, and after their lifespan there, they will then transition to basic life support uses, et cetera. Okay.
So this item would not,
Can I-
go ahead, Commissioner, I'm sorry.
Sorry, can I ask where this bucket of funding would come from?
The 1.6, I
Yeah.
think we have a strategy that we need to present to you in terms of the overall ARPA funds, yeah.
Okay,
It comes from the unobligated balance. So if we had not taken that 1.6 out, then the final item would be 2.3.
Right, but if the board were to authorize that today, what would we be reducing to make up the 1.6 million?
I don't believe we have 1.6 to allocate to that today. This would just be in case of Plan B for unobligated funds. And in that instance,
So, no,
Oh,
no, Diana,
We didn't discuss that, Diana.
right.
That was not the strategy. I believe we have identified a couple of line items the board may consider to potentially provide direction today on the 1.6 million. So we're gonna go back to I don't have my notes in front of me. One was the, gosh.
do you already have the 1.6 identified, or would you like for me to make a suggestion?
I think when we have a pre-meeting, we already identified the suggestions. And I cannot find my notes.
Did the electronics eat them?
No,
No.
What the suggestions were.
I understand the need, right? And I'm not, but I would like to know kind of where we're pulling.
Absolutely, and that's absolutely a valid question. And we discussed this,
We did, and I can't remember. It
yeah,
was
and
enough
one of,
ago that-
I believe is the allocation to the public health.
So we already took the allocation to public health and moved it to the childcare program.
Sorry.
So we will get the specifics.
Give us the time to go back to our notes, and because we did have built in a strategy for you to consider supporting this request.
All right.
Well, it sounds like we want to do it. We just got to find where we're
So.
taking it from. Is that it?
Remind me, I think it was the affordable housing. Because right now, the board may be considering a 3.5 million to build the Franz Anderson. That's an agreement that we're working, we're gonna be presenting to that. That creates that capacity. At least some.
So if we took the 1.5 from affordable housing,
1.5 or 1.6?
1.5 from affordable housing, that's how much is currently left.
No, all of the 1.5, because
So-
out of the 4.1,
Out of the, which one?
the affordable housing, we still
Right.
have 4.5 remaining.
Right, so if we take some of that
We
and,
take a 3.5, that's the obligation to the Franz Anderson development for affordable housing.
right,
So that will leave 600,000 left in this bucket.
Yeah, Diana, do you want to speak more to that? Right before the meeting, she was talking to me about
Yeah, I think Romero's actually right on the track there. So we had previously, before we had moved the 3.5 into the approved column for housing, we had moved 1.5 million into the approved. And then we spent just over 800,000 on Franz Anderson. So that actually leaves over 600,000 in the approved column of affordable housing, which is not allocated towards any specific project.
Okay.
Is that what you meant, Romero?
The other item that we were considering is the agricultural support. That has not moved really much of any expenditures on that.
No, it has not, but that's because it's very new and
Okay.
we just got all the contracts signed. But we only signed for 500,000. We could take the second
That's what I meant, the
five,
second
yep, the second
500,000.
half. And then we've got 696,000 that's not obligated yet.
Okay, that will
So
complement.
take the chunk of that.
Did we confuse the board?
That's the market grants, agricultural market grants? Which one?
So on the agricultural market grants, you see 500,000?
Yeah, no, the agricultural market grants was 696,
Sorry.
and that is completely spent.
The 696 is under section 7, administrative.
I'm lost. So maybe, I don't know if maybe we can look at all the requests that we have and then maybe we can come back later and kind of do the strategy for funding.
Right.
Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah, and again, my apologies for. Yes, thank you.
All right, so let's move ahead to the allocation changes.
Is that the only request we have? Additional?
There is one small request.
So there's, after the allocation changes, we have the project discussion page. So we will get, we will cover the, yep. But before we go there, let's talk about the allocation changes.
Which sheet are we going to?
So we are on page 9, and it's the one that's on the screen.
Shall I proceed?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we wanted to bring things around to discussion of potential ARPA allocation changes. And the first is a request to move 125,000 from unallocated to approved to fund the rest of 2023 for the substance abuse monitoring contract with Friendship Diversion. That's the amount estimated needed to finish out this year. They're running about 500,000 a year.
Which line item is that, Diana?
1.4.C, it's at the very top of the allocation spreadsheet, substance abuse monitoring. Currently, there is 500,000 approved, and so we're asking for an additional 125,000.
So,
What?
go ahead. I was gonna ask, this is so the courts can order monitoring and the defendant doesn't have to pay?
That's
Yeah,
correct.
to continue the program. District court mainly.
Diana, how long would that extend the program, do you recall?
Until the end of 2023.
Because they've got 119 that's unspent here.
Right.
So that's just an estimate on their part, that through the next 5 months, that's what it's gonna take.
That's correct. That's the estimate from Justin.
So 125 plus the 119, right?
Yes. Well, the 125 additional to be moved to approved, and then they were planning on spending the remainder here, 119.
So have they spent the 380? That's gone?
That's correct. Those are expenditures to date. Not including July.
So, can I jump in? I've spoken with Frankie and Judge Buckley about this, and I know that they're really advocating for, you know, them to be able to finish out the year, but also for the continuation of funding it next year as well. And so I know I'm sorry, I'm going through Frankie's email.
All in all,
So-
I guess while you're looking at, all in all, are we saving money in the end as far as jail space and all that type of thing that this is supposed to alleviate? Is it working? Is the plan working as projected?
From what I've heard from the courts, sir, yes. And their request for the year of 2023 through 2024 would be 625 or 2024 through 2025, not sure. So no, just kidding. So basically they had asked the 500, they needed an additional 125,000. And they're also requesting a consideration for 500,000 for 2025. And then the 625 would be for the year of 2023 through 2024. I apologize for the confusion. And so they're saying that the programs worked great, and the amount of motions, right, have gone down, as this was something that was usually highly debated whenever a person had to go on this kind of monitoring. There was a lot of contention between prosecutor and defense because of the price of it, but that has gone down, and you know, from what I've heard from the courts, it's been very effective and very successful so far.
Why wouldn't money from the foundational public health business, why wouldn't that be eligible for that program? It's a public health issue.
I think it's because it's direct services technically. But I'm just talking. I don't really know. I'm just saying.
We got extra money in on that.
So we'd have to look at that, and not only to see how much extra we actually have, but if this is in, if you recall, that money comes in buckets of restricted use. So we'd have to see if there's money in a particular bucket that might be where this might be an eligible cost. So it may or may not be eligible, and even if it is eligible, there may or may not be money that we could put toward it. But again, we can certainly look into that. It could be, it definitely could be TST eligible.
Yeah, we got TST money to do that with.
We do have TST money that we could use for that. I am trying to get a little clarity though, because I'm not certain I understood. I thought that Diana said the extra 125,000 would get us through the end of 23, and then Commissioner Mejia, I thought you said that based on an email from Frankie that it would get us through the end of 24.
No, it would only get us through 2023, and they're requesting basically an additional $1 million for 2024 and 2025. And
Okay.
Robin, I'm
Thank you.
sending you.
Yeah, thank you for forwarding that. All right. So the question before you today is, would you like to authorize 125,000, which we would take out of line 7-1A in the not yet allocated box where there's $696,000? Yes?
I think we need to provide the board with the emergency services vehicles because this is also an item in which they may be considering that. I will probably recommend to prioritize the emergency vehicles because this program is already funded. And I believe the sense of urgency for Medic One funding, in my humble opinion, is paramount.
So why don't we just have all of the requests at the next meeting, right? Just discuss the request right now. Then at the next meeting, we can have them all outlined, how much they're gonna be and which buckets they're gonna come from. That way, if it's something that we have to weigh out, then we can at that time, but I'm not sure about Commissioner Edwards or Menser, but it's hard for me to kind of weigh out everything and not having exactly knowing where that funding is coming from and what we won't be able to do if we do something. Right now, it's kind of hard to weigh it out.
Well, I doubt we could buy the ambulances out of TST funds,
That's true.
but we could do this out of TST funds. So why do we want to short ourselves in areas that we can't do business, I guess? And it sounds like we need to obligate these funds by placing an order for the ambulances. And that would solve a $1.6 million problem. And I don't know how my seatmates feel about it, but it's asking for certain decisions to be made. And if we put it off too much longer, that could delay everything.
So,
You got a solution all of a sudden?
no solution, but
I
talk
might.
about the sense of urgency. The
Okay.
contracts are already signed to purchase the vehicles, right? So it's just about switching the funding source from Medic One to ARPA funds.
Okay.
So I don't think the transactions have been finalized yet, but we have that contract in place. So there's a little bit of time. And I think what Commissioner Mejia is asking is to bring all the requests before you with a potential solution. Where will those requests?
And would that
come
be
from?
relatively soon?
Yeah, we're not gonna be waiting another month. We can probably bring this item in one of your agenda settings in the next 2 weeks. And that will probably help you go through that decision-making process. Will that work?
It will work for me. I hate these delays when we don't have to have delays, but.
What does it mean, all the requests? I mean, I see there's one from district court, there's something here about admin expenses, and there's Medic One. Is there another list of requests that we?
There's another request on the next page.
And I also have received another request too, so just a heads up.
Could you at least just say what it is so we can be thinking about it?
I'll let Robin go through hers first and then go ahead, Robin.
All right, so we won't ask you for decisions today. The second item on page 9 is the administrative expenses. If you look on line 7-1A, you have approved 547,000. We've spent 466,000 of that. We're asking you to approve an additional 575,000. That would get us through the end of 2026 for administration of the fund, and contract management, the evaluation project. It is our current estimate for administrative costs for the duration of this award. And it would come out of the 1.27 that's currently under consideration on that line, and it would actually free up some money for other things. So that's
So what
the,
line are we on?
so if you look on
Page
7-1A on page 8,
Oh, I'm looking at page 404 and it's got that same information.
I just need the line number.
7-1A.
Yeah, 7-1A. Administrative expenses, Thurston County.
Right.
And you say it's somewhere else besides 4.404?
No, sir, that is exactly what we're looking at. I don't know what's in your hand.
No, 404, but you said another page number.
I'm looking at this PowerPoint.
The same documents embedded in the PowerPoint.
Okay.
Okay,
Pagination.
so my apology on the page
So we've got 1.27 that we estimated, and you're saying we only need 575, so you want us to approve that and then we're done? with that item?
That's what we are currently estimating. I wouldn't wanna give away everything there. We need a little bit in future years if costs go up, but most of that would be freed up.
Can you just tell me of the administrative costs overseeing, what, $56 million?
Yeah.
That isn't too bad.
Oh, no, our admin costs are quite low for this
So
fund.
why is that? I mean, what's confusing me here is I feel like each one of these are a different thing. And why is this called an allocation
They are.
change? This isn't an allocation change. This is just shifting the prior allocation into the
The
column.
approved column.
And that's different than when you're saying, let's shift one thing down and
That-
add
to me,
another.
yeah, you
And that's
absolutely-
different than the medic one thing, which is what we're saying, like, those are three different things.
You are correct, you are correct. This one is to request, is to move from have already unallocated column, under consideration to an approved column.
Okay,
And
so
you're
that should be
correct.
non-controversial,
Yeah,
right?
that is absolutely important. That will be the low hanging fruit. And then you're right, then the next is the additional request, one of which is the medic one. And we need to come back to you as to where you may consider taking that money to meet that request. There is a couple more requests and they we have in the next page of this PowerPoint.
Okay.
And Janek is here to address one of those. And that's what Commissioner Mejia, I believe she has another request. I don't know which one that is, but.
Okay.
Right, so are we ready to move on from admin?
Are we gonna just go ahead and say, yeah, we're okay here on this
I'm
administrative
not
cost?
asking you for any
you're
decisions
not gonna do
today.
that
No
now?
decisions today. No.
And you got time?
Oh, yeah,
I
we've
kinda
got,
think I'm
we've still
I'm
got
with
a
you
little
on
money
that.
to spend through the end of
Okay,
this year.
So we'll bring this in more detail, is in 2 weeks. The decisions they may consider. Moving from one column to another, in additional requests, and where the money for the additional request, the reallocation of the money will come from.
Okay.
One of which will, and again, is the medic one, 1.6 million.
Okay. So the next item is the Thurston County Construction Corps. And that's on, I'm looking at this page in the PowerPoint.
The latest in grade.
Do you have a page number on the PowerPoint?
On the
it's page
PowerPoint, it's
10.
page 10.
Page 10, okay. Got it,
Page
got it.
So that request has been going down to 44,000,
47,500.
not to be confused with
Very specific.
48,000.
The Thurston Chamber of Commerce is conducting a construction core workforce development program. There have been updates since submitting the materials for the meeting today. The program is currently underway. It's funded right now by City of Olympia and an organization called Equus. They're about to complete their third, and I believe they have 5 more planned cohorts. And just recently, they secured funding for those next 5 cohorts. Graduation day is actually this Friday, and you've been invited to attend if you'd like to see how the culmination of this program. The Thurston Chamber is proposing a new cohort that prioritizes unincorporated county residents and South County residents. And the cost of the single cohort is the $47,500. This allows up to 20 participants. It's a 4-week program, and when they graduate, they're graduating with OSHA 10, their forklift operator certification, and flagger certification. On graduation, they bring in employers to connect the employers with the graduates. And so within the 47,500 number, it also includes the 10% for admin of the program. I'm happy to take any questions.
I have a question. So what's the motivation of this program? Is it that we're trying to get South County folks employed? We have, or there's a gap and there's not this kind of program that's, you know, people can employ, like what's the problem trying to be solved?
So the idea is, especially with COVID, that there's been an impact in construction labor. And so this is supposed to design a pipeline of upskilling interested workers who are unemployed, underemployed, looking for a new employment option to be the construction labor for companies that are working on housing and have a shortage of labor. We've heard from a lot of construction companies that it's like, I need someone with these skills. We need someone who's gonna show up ready to work, because part of what they work on is not just the certification, but also soft skills.
So do these programs exist in the market, but they're cost prohibitive, so we're gonna offer it for free? Or are these I mean, usually the market would take care of these types of things. I'm not sure why we would be involved. What is the gap that we need to, as government, come in and?
I mean, I'm not aware of which programs are offered in the private sector. Thurston County Chamber has said that they're working specifically with a contractor who does apprentice-style certifications. And so I think that this is intended to be that pipeline for the private construction companies. And also they invite jurisdictions who have relevant jobs. I believe City of Olympia has hired people directly out of this program. I believe they've invited Public Works to attend as well.
And I think the City of Olympia program was focusing in mainly with City of Olympia residents.
Yes, this started as exclusively City of Olympia, I believe, and they were seeing success in the program, and so
And
we're
perhaps
looking
the
for
additional
opportunities.
$48,000 request expands those options to include.
I believe in the coming cohorts because funding is being matched by Equus, that they will be prioritizing City of Olympia residents, but that other people within Thurston County are eligible. And this new cohort would be prioritizing Thurston County residents and South County, and would be an additional cohort to what they have funding for.
I guess I'm specifically concerned, you've said South County several times, but North County didn't have the same workforce, or why does it say South County? I'm trying to figure that out.
I think they were looking to provide supports to some of the areas that don't typically have funding to support programs like this. Anybody within unincorporated Thurston County would be considered a priority applicant.
Not just South County.
Not just South County, right?
Because I think anytime we don't specifically identify, you know, like that, I think you're better off saying unincorporated Thurston County or something like that. I don't know of anything like, Public Works. I don't know, they used to train people as flaggers or something, and we've had other workforce programs where they paid maybe, the employer, they covered half the wages for, you know, the training period or something like that. So they didn't just walk away with a certificate, they actually walked away with some worker knowledge about how it fits with the business, so.
I mean, they do bring in the employers to connect them at the end of the graduation. And so the intention is that they'd be going through this workforce development program and be linked up with jobs.
And who's actually doing that workforce development? Because what's that mountain, something? Back Mountain.
I do not believe
I
they're
mean, that's their
involved.
thing, what they kind of do.
We're already funding,
Are we?
the ARPA funds some of the work.
Yeah, but are we duplicating a service here? I'm just curious.
So, those all good questions.
Yeah,
that's all
they
good
were
questions.
connected, I believe, in this program. They were going to be providing funds. The information I was provided today is that their funding situation has changed and it does not look like they will be able to provide funding in the way that it was initially anticipated. And so I think initially they were thinking that participants were going to be able to be paid while they were in the 4-week training, but it looks like that resource is not there anymore.
But now instead of 70, it's 48.
So that's that proposal, and that will be on the list that we bring you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay, other questions about this one? Thank you, Jenica. Commissioner Mejia, you're up.
And then Ramiro, I believe that you know about this one. It's about Quinn Street.
Yeah, there is this with Mike Reed. And I believe that that need has already been funded by Commerce.
No, Quinn Street.
Quince.
Queen Street, yeah.
So this is
But yeah, I am aware.
okay. So they sent in a request for so Quinn Street is opened up in 2022. It's the downtown mitigation site. The original plan was to use the Franz Anderson property to host the RVs that were on Ensign Road, with the county set to contribute the purchase and development of Franz Anderson for RVs. So the county did the 1.5 million of the ARPA funds for the project. We ended up contributing 50%. I believe like around 825, not sure exactly on those figures, to acquire the property, and it ended up leaving like around 600,000. So with the road project though, like Franz Anderson we didn't end up using it for the RVs, but rather Olympia moved those RVs from Enside to Quinn Street. So Olympia currently has a contract for about 1.3 million to operate Quinn Street. And right now they are going to be making a request to the Regional Housing Council in August to support, but they're also making a request to the county to help support that. They're looking for like 1/3 of the operating costs. So they're basically asking the county if they would, the remaining 600,000 that wasn't used for the Franz Anderson, if it could go basically to the operation of this. And then the RHC to be able to give the rest. They are operating the property as a regional property and accepting residents through the coordinated entry to anyone in the county, not just those from the city of Olympia. So that's basically the request. So
I have a question about that.
I will try to answer, but
Have they developed anything yet about prioritization and trying to take care of our own folks first? Is that anything there yet?
I do not know, sir. I cannot answer that.
That's not part of the strategy.
My position is gonna be the same then that it's been all along. I wanna be consistent. So you and Commissioner Menzer might have to hash this out, because unless we start prioritizing, I'm not gonna be supporting this stuff. I see the county manager's got his hands up.
Go ahead, County Manager.
Yeah, yes, Madam Chair, I am aware of this request, and that was, the request was given to me by the city manager. And my suggestion, I think you highlighted, that this conversation and the ongoing operations of the Quinn Street should be done at the Regional Housing Council. And I believe there are some funding sources within the Regional housing council that can address that because the region is benefiting from this particular site. You know, one of the strategies that I was looking for the remainder of the unused affordable housing is to really fund the emergency services vehicles. So, and again, I'm just putting it out there. We'll bring all those recommendations of the new requests to you in 2 weeks with a potential options as to where this could be the funding will be reallocated. And that really will be a part of your conversation as to how you want to prioritize those requests. But we'll add this is the request you're suggesting from the City of Olympia was 600,000.
Yeah,
Okay, so we'll add that to the request, and the conversation will be in 2 weeks.
Diana, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
I do. So in the interest of maybe not waiting as long, I'm wondering if I might have a couple of minutes to make a quick proposal for how to fund these items from existing items.
Let's wait for 2 weeks, Diana. I think we need
Oh, wait.
to please, among ourselves.
Okay. Okay, any additional questions,
So,
comments?
so what I'm gonna be bringing in 2 weeks, Madam Chair, just to make sure, we'll bring a proposal, to streamline the decision-making process of, moving from, the under consideration to an approved column. Then the next will be to consider new requests that includes the emergency services, vehicles for 1.6 million. The Thurston County Construction Corps project, 48,000, and the 600,000 for the operating cost of the Quince Street. And I
And
don't,
district court too.
I was gonna, that's the next level. And then those are new requests, which will bring some proposals as to what you may consider moving funds around. And the third element is expanding existing projects, which is the district court project.
Sorry,
So
you have your method.
on Quinn Street, I need a little more explanation of what it is, because the last thing I heard, which was quite some time ago, that was about moving the mitigation site from downtown, dealing with the RVs just on a temporary basis while they destroyed them or gave people notice, and so what is the plan at this point for Quinn Street going
So
forward?
Queen Street has I believe, tiny homes. They use to move the mitigation site from downtown to place them into these tiny homes. And also when they move some of the RVs out of Ensign Road, they put them into these tiny homes. There is no real RV park in there. These tiny homes.
I think those tiny homes are costing the taxpayers about $2,000 a month.
So
To run that.
So that is what is the Quincy Street is the tiny homes in the ongoing operations. Did I answer your question, sir?
Yes.
Kind of, sort of.
Yep.
Okay,
So we'll bring this for your further consideration August 8th.
perfect. Okay. It is 3:07. We are adjourned. Thank
Just
you.
I'm
Oh.
so sorry,
Wait.
Chair.
Okay.
Adjourn, we just need to let you know that we submitted the reports that were due to US Treasury, on Monday, July 31st. They've been submitted. And we just need that on the record, that the submittal is, good with the board. So we've posted the annual plan on the website as required, and we reported these dollars that you see before you to US Treasury. So just for the record,
Yeah, and
Thank
we'll acknowledge that on the minutes
yes.
of this meeting, whomever's taking minutes.
All right.
Okay.
That's for the state auditor. Okay, so thank you very much.
Okay, now it is 3:09 and now we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.